welcome back my students to a brand new episode of Comic Class. In today's episode, guys, we'll be going over the first issue in the John Romita Sr. Stan Lee run. And today we're going to be looking at the Amazing Spider-Man issue 39, How Green Was My Goblin. And yeah, it's a really good debut issue for John Romita Sr. He's a artist to basically redefine the character and define the character for generations to come, and even inspires the people of today. So this is a very iconic run, and I can't wait to jump into this. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into today's story. Let's go. So this story basically starts off with the Green Goblin still not being shown his identity and basically getting in his costume, and it's been a few months since the incident with Professor Strom, and he's finally decided that he was going to put it into his own hands to basically find out Spider-Man's identity and then destroy him. Now we get to see that Peter basically talks to one of the doctors that basically worked with Aunt May with her sickness. I guess that happened a few issues ago. It's been quite a while since it happened, and in this issue we find out that the doctor tells Peter that Aunt May's condition isn't the best and that she can't sustain basically a shot to her system, so he needs to be very careful not to, let her get scared or worried or stuff like that. So this leads Peter into, really being careful and kind of like taking that to heart and trying to get it to be, easy around Aunt May. And this will be a major plot point later on in the issue. Now we get to see at the college campus that Norman Osborn basically has a conversation with his son Harry Osborn, and we get to see more of their dynamic that we saw in the Professor Strom issue, showing that they really don't have a really great relationship with each other, with Norman basically wanting Harry to basically be more like upfront and standing up for himself and being very assertive and stuff like that. And their relationship kind of gets explained later on in the issue, but we get to see that Peter basically has a conversation with Harry and basically lifts him up and basically tells him not to let his parents, define what they are, and basically to, just do your best in life. Some really good advice, and this catches the eye of Gwen Stacy as well as Flash Thompson, who's starting to think that maybe Peter Parker isn't all that bad. And yeah, so later on in the day, Peter basically gets into his Spider-Man costume and he goes and stops a robbery or a hostage situation from occurring. He basically gets all the people to safety, while he's fighting all these criminals, basically like these gang people, and they were actually hired by the Green Goblin. And while this fight's going on, the people that are being held hostage basically escape down an elevator, I believe, and we get to see the Green Goblins basically just watching the entire battle. And the whole point of this battle was that the gang people basically were given like this type of like gas, and like this dust, and this gas basically nullifies Peter's spider sense. So this is important for the Green Goblin's plan to find out Spider-Man's secret identity. Now after this whole attempt, this hostage situation basically gets solved and the police come to take the people away, the bad guys away. Peter basically goes and gets out of his Spider-Man costume when he feels like no one's around, and this starts to reveal to us that Peter's spider sense actually works in a way to keep people from finding out his secret identity, just so he'll know if anyone's around him that would be able to find out his secret identity. I guess his spider sense is tied to his brain, in that he considers his secret identity to be a danger, so his spider sense actually activates if someone is nearby. I thought that was a really cool fact with Spider-Man. I never knew that his spider sense worked that way. But the Green Goblin basically sees Peter basically change to his civilian uniform, or civilian clothes, and when that happens, the Green Goblin finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And so Peter basically goes to the Daily Bugle and he talks to Ned Leeds, and they basically talk about Betty Brant. And this where Peter basically just tells him that he's kind of like moving on from her, and that he's not going to try pursuing her, so if Ned Leeds wants to pursue her, then he can do that. And he also sells some pictures to J. Jonah Jameson as well, and they have a really cool interaction as well. After Peter gets done with all that and trying to get money from Jonah and basically, succeeding and bribing him in a way, claiming that he'll take his pictures to another newspaper if he doesn't get paid at the moment. It was a really good comedy scene with Peter basically mentioning that J. Jonah Jameson is very generous, and it kind of like satirical way, being sarcastic. Eventually, Peter goes home and he's about to go inside. He's already on his way inside his house when the Green Goblin basically shows up and it reveals that he knows Spider-Man's secret identity. We get to see that Aunt May basically is looking outside as a giant fog cloud basically is happening all around the area because of the Green Goblin's Goblin glider, basically. His jet glider, you can say. And the smoke coming from it basically blocks Aunt May's view of what's happening outside, which is good because Peter's using his spider abilities despite not wearing his suit, because his suit's underneath his civilian clothes. And the Green Goblin basically tries to zap him with his magical beams, basically, but this doesn't work. And the fight continues. Eventually, he does tag Peter, and it does kind of stun Peter for a bit, and he also uses more of his gas, it seems. And eventually, uses some type of knockout gas. I'm guessing that this type of gas is basically knockout gas. So the Green Goblin basically ties Peter up, as you see from the cover of the issue, and he basically takes Peter to his hideout in the waterfront. At the waterfront, basically. And the issue ends with the Green Goblin basically having Peter tied with some nylon bars, basically strings, or I think they're nylon ropes. And the nylon ropes basically are very hard for Peter to break with the position that the Goblin has put him in, so he can't use his spider strength to its fullest. And eventually, as Peter's identity is revealed to the Green Goblin doesn't want Peter to die without knowing his identity, and the Green Goblin's identity finally gets revealed to be Norman Osborn. And yeah, that's how the issue ends, with Peter just being surprised that Norman, which is Harry's father, is actually his greatest villain. His arch nemesis, as you can say. And he's been Spider-Man's arch nemesis for so long. Even today, most people consider him to be Spider-Man's greatest enemy, and the person who killed Gwen Stacy, which, mostly everyone knows. Same thing with Norman being Green Goblin, mostly everyone knows, but we kept it a secret for this, this run of videos as we're going through the Amazing Spider-Man series. And yeah, really good issue. And that was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 39, How Green Was My Goblin. And yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this issue. It was a great debut issue for John Romita Sr. as an artist. The writing was good by Stan Lee. I'm not sure John Romita Sr. helped Stan Lee to write some of these stories, but the writing was actually really good, and I enjoyed the reveal of Norman Osborn. I thought it was handled really well at the very end on the final page. A really good cliffhanger, and the way that Norman figured out Spider-Man's secret identity was very clever. It was a multi-step plan, and it worked out, and it paid off, and it sets up the next issue to be a climactic fight and battle to the death between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man, and Norman and Peter Parker. It's just something that was built up through multiple issues. This has been building up for the Green Goblin to fight against Peter Parker, basically. And we'll see how the Green Goblin's ego plays into Spider-Man's battle in the next issue. But yeah, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're gonna go through the entire John Romita Sr. Stan Lee run, and it's going to be fun as we're covering this. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I hope you guys, like I said, subscribe so you don't miss the next issue when it drops. The video should be out soon, and yeah, until next video, God bless you. Until next lesson, keep on reading those comments.